I remember the ache, that dull, stubborn whisper in my lower back after a morning spent forcing hedges into polite, boxy shapes. I used to believe a well-loved garden was a tightly controlled one, so I clipped, and I bent, and I reached, and I stretched. The garden became a place of duty, a list of tasks, and somewhere along the way I misplaced the simple joy of it. Then, many summers ago, I found myself wandering through an old, forgotten monastery garden tucked into the Danish countryside. The shrubs there were wild, the paths were soft and uneven underfoot, and the air smelled of resting earth and sun-warmed thyme. And yet, I didn't see a single gardener hunched over with shears. How could a place feel so deeply held, so at peace, with so little human fussing? Let's walk together through that quiet wisdom, the kind of garden that asks so very little of our spines. Because I have learned, over my 45 years with soil and shears, that the most healing gardens might just be the ones we touch the least. I used to think that every cut I made with my secateurs was an act of love. Taking away the old growth, the wayward, unruly branches, it felt so satisfying. The clean snip, the tidy shape, I was so proud of it. But the garden, you see, it holds a quieter, older wisdom than our need for neatness. And it took me years to truly hear what my viburnum were trying to tell me. Let's pause here. Put your hands on the earth, just feel it. Even if it's just the air where the soil should be, imagine that coolness. Think about a shrub that gets a hard cut back, season after season. Its roots, in response, they begin a slow retreat. They pull inward, forming a tight, shallow, frightened little mass just beneath the surface. I call this the corset phenomenon. The topsoil hardens, it loses its soft, giving, breathing nature. And every step you take across that ground, it sends a tiny, jarring shock right up through your knees and into that tender place in your lower back. It's a gentle ache, one you might never trace back to the shears in your own hand. Now, close your eyes for just a moment and imagine walking on a natural woodland floor. The roots down there, they spread wide and deep, holding hands with each other under the ground. The soil feels springy, alive, a cushion of crumbling leaves and ancient, quiet pathways. Your body moves with a kind of remembered ease, supported, not jarred. A naturally kept herb garden, one that is allowed to breathe and expand into its own wild shape. It asks for so very little bending from you. The effort becomes light, the movement a gentle, unhurried conversation with the plants, not a battle against them. So what if the very first step to a pain-free garden isn't a new, expensive kneeling stool or a sharper tool? What if it's a soft, internal decision to simply let go? What if the greatest kindness we can offer our shrubs and our own beautiful, tired backs is to step back, make a cup of tea, and let them find their own shape? Let's pause here. Put your hands on the earth, even if it's just the fabric of your trousers, and just feel the quiet. Come with me now to an 18th century monastery garden, somewhere in the cool, gray quiet of northern Europe. Can you smell it? The damp earth and the ancient stone, the light filtering through leaves that have been growing their own way for 100 years. The monks noticed something beautiful about the viburnum opulus, the Gelder rose. They watched how its branches spread low and wide, a shape almost like an open arm, a quiet invitation to rest. They called it their backrest hedge, not for leaning your full weight, you understand, never that, against a slender branch, but as a living parasol, a place of shelter that cooled the spirit just as much as the skin. Before a single cut was made, they would ask a simple, sacred question. Does this plant truly need my help? Or do I just want it to look a certain way? That pause, that single, gentle breath of hesitation, it is everything. It's a profound practice of self-care. Because when you pause before reaching for your clippers, you are telling your own rushing heart that the garden is not a task to be conquered. A shrub allowed to hold its own form becomes quiet, steady company. It shades you without demanding stooped labor. It soothes you without asking for a single thing in return. This is ancestral knowledge, writ long ago in the quiet bend of a branch. An old cottage garden manual from the 1880s noted this same quiet truth, that the gardener's first tool is restraint. Let's pause here. Put your hands on the earth, just for a breath or two. I remember one particular autumn when I thought I was doing my herbs a great, big favor. I was tucking them in, you see, giving them a good, tidy haircut before the winter arrived. I came out with my shears and cut them back hard, feeling so wonderfully productive and proud of myself. Oh, the garden had other plans. Those tender, hopeful little shoots that sprouted from my pruning, they were the very first to be blackened and killed by the frost. All that bending, all that clipping, and it was for nothing. The plant was left weaker, more shivering and exposed, than if I had simply let it be in its wild, shaggy sleep. And there is the matter of mulch, a thing so many of us spread with the kindest, most protective intentions. I used to tuck a thick, woolly blanket of bark mulch around my Mediterranean herbs, thinking I was keeping their roots safe from the cold. But I learned, through the sad, slow yellowing of leaves, that rosemary and lavender, they like their crowns dry and sun-kissed. The bark holds moisture, you see. It creates a dampness around the neck of the plant that doesn't honor their native need for dry, stony feet. I ended up with root rot, more heavy, heart-sinking lifting and replanting, and a good deal more strain on my back and my patience. And one more quiet confession, a subtle one. For years I would harvest my sage first thing in the cool of the morning, thinking that was its moment of peak freshness. But the essential oils, the very soul of the sage, they are diluted in that morning coolness. The flavor is there, but it's softer, less concentrated. So I would find myself cutting more and more leaves, chasing a flavor, pruning the plant much harder than it ever needed. I was trying so hard to capture something the plant simply wasn't ready to give. You see, the garden offers us such gentle, patient lessons. It never judges us for our striving mistakes. It simply teaches us, if we are willing to pause and listen. And when we stop forcing our own will upon it, we begin to move with its own quiet, deep rhythms. And oh, there is such a deep peace in that. Now, let's step into a different kind of knowing. When your shadow stretches out long and soft across the earth in the late afternoon, the light is gentle and kind. When it's a crisp, dark pool right beneath your feet, the sun is at its full, fierce strength. This is the shadow reading method, a quiet ritual for a sunny afternoon. You just look down, and the garden tells you everything about the hour and the mood of the day. Consider the curry plant, a dear silver-leaved friend. Its leaves have a way of speaking without a sound. When I just glance at its leaf curl around mid-morning, I know exactly how the soil feels beneath the surface. A gentle upward curl, like a tiny boat, means the moisture reserves are getting low. A flat, open, relaxed leaf means the earth is still cool and holding its dampness. No gadget is needed. No bending or kneeling with a heavy watering can. The plant saves you all that, if you just learn to see what it's telling you. And then, oh, there is the old gardener's way with soil. You sit quietly on a low stool or on a patch of soft grass, and you reach down and crumble a handful of earth between your fingers. You feel its texture, the coolness, the slight, honest grit, or the velvet smoothness. It tells you if the ground is sweet or sour, alive or tired. It's a daily act of mindfulness, this simple communion. Just sitting, feeling the earth, letting your hands remember what the soil needs, while the soil, in return, steadies your breathing. The garden is never, ever perfect, and that is its most profound gift to us. We learn to accept deeply a perfectly imperfect space, a hole in a leaf here, a bent, wandering stem there, a patch where the chamomile decided to wander into the path. It's all part of the rhythm, a song being sung without our needing to conduct it. So let's learn together to read these quiet signs. The coolness of the soil at dawn, the sharp, sweet scent of herbs warming in the afternoon sun, the low, steady thrum of a distant bee, or the sound of leaf litter crunching softly under a bird's feet. When you learn this language, the garden becomes a place of sitting and watching and simply being, not a list of chores to exhaust you, but a gentle, holding place to rest your heart. Let's pause here one last time. Put your hands on the earth or on your own heart and just feel the gratitude. So tomorrow morning, my dear fellow gardener, perhaps you might step outside without the clippers. Wander out slowly and stand for a quiet moment where your viburnum or your sage grows. Just look at it. Feel the soil under your feet. Is it forgiving like a soft cushion, or does it feel a bit hard and unyielding? If you notice a tightness in your own shoulders, a little knot of readiness, just breathe. And ask yourself the monk's question: does this plant truly need my hands right now? Or can we simply be together, keeping each other quiet company for a while? The ancient gardeners, tucked in their cloisters, knew something we are all gently remembering. The gentlest, most resilient gardens grow not from a striving hand, but from a quiet, watching heart. If this slow, soft walk through the paths of unhurried gardening spoke to you, I do hope you'll sit with us here in our little community. Come back and let's continue to learn how to garden with ease, with wonder, and with such a deep, abiding affection for our own aging, beautiful spines. Until we meet again here, may your garden hold you as gently as you hold it.